Now, a bit of controversy going on at eBay at the moment. They're changing the rules. They're making everybody pay through PayPal, which is sort of changing the whole dynamic of the whole thing a little bit. Now, on the line, I have a very keen eBayer. If anybody's bought the Sydney Harbour Bridge or perhaps the Opera House on eBay lately, you'll probably be familiar with Ross Patterson. Good morning, Ross.
Hi Ian, how you doing?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well indeed. Ross, what's going on at eBay?
Well, firstly, I haven't sold the Opera House or the Sydney Harbour Bridge, at least not recently.
Oh, good. Does that mean I can still buy it?
I did clean up my act a little bit in that score, yes. Yeah, you can, Ian.
Oh, great. Bargain price 10, I'm your friend. I know. We'll talk about it after the show, mate. All right?
Okay, fantastic.
So, what's happening at eBay, Ross? What's going on?
Well, eBay have applied to bring in mandatory use of PayPal on their website from May, June. And most of Australian eBayers are up in arms about it. I would say a conservative percentage of people that oppose it is about 70%, but eBay would definitely dispute that. But the main issue is that eBay want to bring in payment only through their system called PayPal, which quite often for sellers is a system that we use if we sell something overseas, and buyers might use it, but usually not for local transactions. Most people accept bank deposit or a postal order, money order, something like that. And so there are several payment methods currently, but if PayPal comes in as a mandatory thing, not only it becomes more complex for sellers, and there's a possibility of all kinds of things through PayPal, which has a raft of complaints against it in other countries and here. But the main issue is that it'll cost more. It'll cost more for the buyer and it'll cost more for the seller. PayPal levy roughly a 2.4% fee on every transaction. So what is being portrayed by eBay as an attempt to make it safer for people to transact online is in fact an attempt to make more money.
You're right. So it sounds like it's just a scam. They're hiding behind the idea that they will make it safer, as you said, that your transactions will be more secure, and they're whacking 2.4% on every transaction, which if you paid by some other method, presumably you wouldn't have to pay. Is that right? That's
correct. And in fact, eBay themselves recommend, ironically, bank deposit as a safe mechanism to pay your seller fees. So it's interesting that they say that about bank deposit, and yet
right. So that's for
their 75-page submission actually contradicts itself. So
just clarify that. So they're saying if you're selling, you should pay by a different method, whereas if you're buying, you should pay through PayPal. So they're recommending two different methods of payments for buyers and sellers.
No, I'm really just referring to the fact that eBay actually recommend bank deposit as being safe on their own website, and yet contradict themselves in their submission to the ACCC in that they say that PayPal will make it safer. Well, there is a PayPal protection scheme that does protect buyers to some extent, but it is quite a convoluted way to claim back money. For instance, there's a guy that was on the forums, which are absolutely buzzing. The eBay forums are absolutely buzzing with this issue currently. And he bought something from a Hong Kong supplier using PayPal. And the software that he was sent with the piece of hardware was faulty or fraudulent software. So he asked for his money back through PayPal, but he was then informed he didn't have buyer protection. And therefore he couldn't claim anything back. And they said the only way that they would is if he sent the item back to Hong Kong, which would cost him 4 times the value of what he'd actually paid or something like that. And in the end he just gave up, and a lot of people do give up. So, but I think the main point is that people will be paying a lot more. Sellers who are selling smaller items will be completely wiped out. Like there's a lady on eBay that's selling like children's clothes and things like that, roughly $10 items.
Yep.
And she does an enormous amount of trade. Basically she pays around about $4,000 a month in fees to eBay, and yet she's prepared to walk over this to completely close down the business because the additional fees and costs. She's already working on a very skinny margin. It was a nice little supplement to what they were doing. She's worked very hard. She has an incredible amount of feedback in the thousands, and it's 100% positive. And yet she's prepared to walk away basically on principle, and because really it makes it not worth doing. eBay are already making buckets of money. Why they want to bring this in, nobody can understand. People are just completely outraged.
Yeah, is PayPal, I mean, are they affiliated? Are they the same company, you know, the same?
Absolutely, 100% owned by eBay.
Right.
In fact, eBay started a few years back, PayMate, which was like a predecessor to, in Australia, to PayPal. And then they sold that to Australian management. So PayMate are their main opposition, who also will be wiped out. Now, that's where, with their ACCC submission, in their ACCC submission, it's basically anti-competitive conduct because PayMate, who are currently also an international and local payment method you can use funded by your credit card, and so you simply supply, you just, you know, sending a payment to an email address and the payment is made the same way PayPal works, well, they will be wiped out of eBay. They will be in one fell swoop completely removed from eBay.
So that's a great business practice, isn't it? You start up a business, sell it to somebody, and then take away the whole modus operandi for the business to exist in the first place.
Yeah, well, I wondered what the seller's agreement was, whether they had any undertaking in there that they wouldn't do anything like this in the future, but it seems like there wasn't any.
Apparently not. No, you'd think not.
That's right. So
how do we get in on a business like this, Ross? This sounds like something you and I should be cooking up.
Well, I think so, Ian. I think we definitely should. Yeah, eBay have a global monopoly in a sense. I mean, I think the figures are around about 45% of online auction sales in Australia happen through eBay, something like that.
Yep.
So they have a monopoly, but they also have that...
45% is not really a monopoly, but it would be a huge volume of sales, a huge amount of money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, that's right. And also they offer sellers the chance to market their products internationally, and this is where they get a lot of business because people want to pay overseas people without sending a bank transfer. So I guess in that sense, PayPal, to be fair, PayPal can be a really good service because instead of a $21 or $20 bank charge to send online overseas, you send through PayPal, you pay an uplift on the exchange rate at the time, and away you go. Yep. But so that's all right. You know, you're just sending by email. You haven't got all the dramas of whether they got it or not. PayPal confirmed they did get it. So in that sense, it's a good service. But
sure. So that's for international business, not for local business.
Well, really, I think practically most Australian people just want to use bank deposit. They just want to do an online transfer mostly. They will send a postal order. Some people who are in the country can't get to the bank and they're not online, so they might post you a postal, or they don't like giving their bank details. Many Australian people don't like, you know, giving away their bank details. The seller doesn't mind. The seller's in business to sell, so they give their details, and then the person deposits their account, and it's done. It shows up. They put the transaction ID in. It's worked perfectly well, and very few sellers say they've had a problem with the existing bank system.
Well, isn't this going to cause problems for eBay? I mean, aren't a whole lot of people, like you say, that woman, she's going to walk. I mean, if there are other businesses doing online auctions, if eBay have only got 45% of the market, then there's 55% of it that's going somewhere else or some other places. Surely they're just going to undercut their own business because people will just go and use other forums.
That's right. That's right. There's been a massive increase in Auction, which is the major opposition. Auction has had a couple of 100% increase at least in people joining. I think they're over the 250,000 mark now, and a lot of people have joined in the last 2 weeks. People were simply in shock. People could not believe that eBay would try to bring this in. It's like killing the golden goose, or what do they call? You know, the goose that laid the golden egg. And a lot of people have worked really hard, and people don't make a lot of money from eBay unless you get up in the mega bucks of selling, unless you're a power seller. But they've even managed to upset their power sellers.